Had the car in the garage. I took some red Scotch-Brite and some denatured alcohol, and I've been polishing up the valve cover. It came out really good. I'll show a picture of like before and after. The next thing I did was grab some new JDM Speed spark plug wires. They're like 10 millimeter. They had good reviews on Amazon. They were less than 30 bucks. And these are just the old like factory plug wires, so figured it couldn't hurt to go ahead and change those out. So I'll be putting those on today. The car is running great. I'll show y'all a couple videos of some other issues I was having. The AEM wideband, I've had a ton of issues all of a sudden with it. It was reading either lean all the way to the right or rich all the way, but no in between. I got a replacement O2 sensor. The gauge was reading the same thing. I rewired the gauge. I checked all the connections. I tested both O2 sensors with a gas-soaked rag, and it read rich. And then when I took it off in open air, it read lean. Basically, all I can think is that the gauge itself was bad. It's only 3 months old, so AEM did just request that I destroy the old product, and they are sending me a new warranty gauge. So as soon as the new gauge comes in, I'm going to put that in, and we'll see if we're getting a reading again. When I would wiggle the connector on the back of the gauge, occasionally I would get an accurate reading for about 2 seconds or less. And there's no issue with the connector itself. So that's kind of what finally led me to determine that it's probably the gauge. So as soon as that comes in, we're going to get that put in, and I am going to install the Blocks boost controller in here and turn the PSI up a little bit. I really want to get around 8 PSI. I think it'll be a noticeable difference from the 5.5 we've been sitting at, but I just can't do it until I can see the tune and make sure that we're not going to lean out. Took the wiper blades off. I'm going to respray the arms. They were looking pretty rough. Just the typical peel and paint. So I'm going to clean those up really well and just repaint them a nice black color. Then up here, ran into another little problem on my roof. The guy that had this car did bodywork. So what he did was use some shop materials to spray it this like matte black color that it is. And he did some body filler work up here. Well, I came out the other day, and just from the weather lately, I guess the rain and stuff, it had lifted completely off. So I went ahead and chipped all that old Bondo out and stuff. I'm using the Evercoat Pro filler right here from Advance. It's a little bit better than just the regular old Bondo stuff. So I've got this slicked out pretty well. There's a little bit of a low spot right in here, so I'm going to be building that up, sanding it again until everything's smoothed out. And I also kind of slicked the roof out lightly by hand with some 320 grit. I'll show y'all some more about that, but today I've got some piano black gloss vivid wrap coming in, and I'll show y'all. I'm going to be wrapping the whole roof gloss black, because my total plan is maybe to wrap the whole car like Nardo gray or some type of color like that with the piano black roof. I was at the bin store with my wife recently, and she actually found this. It's a 70 millimeter like eBay, Amazon throttle body for the car. I believe the stock one's like 58 millimeters. So I'm gonna be getting a gasket for this soon. I've already got another TPS sensor, and I'll just move the map sensor over from either my stock throttle body, or I will get one that can handle a little bit higher boost, just since we are going to be turning the boost up. But it's your typical knockoff, but they have really good reviews, and it's going to allow us to get a lot more air into the intake right here, because I believe this is 58 millimeters. So we'll be taking the die grinder, opening all that up. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. I would have to put something inside the intake so that all those shavings don't end up in the motor, back it out. So I'm really not pressed to do that right now, but that is something that's going to be happening in the near future. So before I hop into these spark plug wires, I do want to just give a little shout out to these wireless mics I got. I am using those today. They came in a nice little case. The other wireless mic goes here, and the little receiver that clips into my iPhone goes in here. They're pretty simple. They're a lot clearer than the regular, and they charge in the case. So pretty cool. Just trying to step up the channel quality a little bit. As far as doing the spark plug wires, definitely no trick to it. Longest one goes over here, and you just want to make sure you put it back in the same spot. So I'll go ahead and pop these open. Okay, so I've got them kind of laid out. They look like they're a little bit longer than the factory, which is fine. There's just going to be a little bit more wire to deal with. And like I read in the comments, they're a little bit too large for the factory little spark plug wire holder here. That's not really a big deal. A lot of guys will do the zip tie trick, and I may show you all that. But if I don't do that, I may just 3D print a replacement like that, just in a larger size. So no big deal. We'll figure that out. I'm just going to go from largest to smallest, and I'm going to go one at a time. So we'll clip this on here. Make sure it's on there good. Now what I can do is either, like I said, 3D print a holder that's like the factory one, or do the zip tie trick just to kind of hold them across here and to kind of bind them up. There's going to be a little bit of play, but I don't really mind it. These are thicker wires. They should carry a little bit more like spark. So hopefully they'll be a nice little upgrade from the factory ones. I decided for the time being I am going to do the zip tie trick. I just don't have any very heat resistant 3D printer filament at the moment. So we're going to just temporarily get this set up. They do make these in like aluminum and stuff like that. You can order them Amazon, AliExpress, stuff like that. So anyways, that might be like a future thing. But for right now, we're just going to do the zip tie trick. So wherever you're trying to do it, like here, I'm just going to do these two wires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the main zip tie here around. And I'm also going to try to put the heads of the zip ties underneath. So let's see. I can kind of try to plan this out. What you're doing is you're loosely doing one around both wires. And then you're doing one in between both wires. So I'm going to rotate this underneath so that you don't see the head of the zip tie. Pull this around. I'm going to get it a little bit closer, and I'm going to get this one a little bit closer. So now that they're both kind of tight, I'm going to tighten this center one up really tight in the middle. And then I'm going to tighten that up. The good thing about this is you can kind of reposition the wires once they're tied. It feels a little bit weird at first how they're trying to stand up, but what I can do here is make a bracket or something, but you can see I just kind of adjusted the tension there. Here's both arms primed up. It's looking good, so the next step will just be letting that dry until we can sand it and shoot it with the final satin black. Also, AEM just came through with the replacement wideband gauge, so I might just go ahead and hook that up today, see if we can't go ahead and get a reading back in the car again and start tuning it for 8 psi. The hinges are all painted up, looking good, bolted back in, and the wiper blades are back on, cowls back in. They're looking good. Got done doing some sanding. I took some like 150 grit on my like woodworking sander. I don't have like a DA or air compressor set up, but I've slicked that Evercoat out to the point that you can barely feel it. I can actually feel more of a ridge on the paint here where I went over in a few spots, but it's super slick except right here in the center. So the next thing I'm gonna be doing is a skim coat in the center here, and then I'm gonna be feathering all this out. I got a buddy of mine on the way that does body work for a living, and he's bringing over a long block and some wet sandpaper. So the next step of the process is going to be wet sanding the whole roof and just slicking the primer out into this part, kind of where it got like a hard line with the tape. What I'm going to do is set y'all up on the tripod. I'm going to go to wet sand until it feels like really smooth. We're going to wipe it with alcohol, tack cloth it, and then we'll roll a wrap out. There's a Cars and Coffee in the morning. It's been a long work week, but I'm going to try to bust this out tonight so I can make the car meet tomorrow. So let's get after it. adhesed. I had a little bit of issue with it sticking. I didn't want to pull these old seals. They're really hard to get. Normally you would run it under the seal, but it cut and fit pretty nicely. It adheres pretty well when I use some heat on this edge. I had a couple little small spots, but other than that, the wrap slicked out really nice. I cleaned it with some alcohol, so we're good to go. I'm gonna wash the car first thing in the morning before the car meet, and we should be good to go. In the next video, I'll be installing that Block's boost controller and showing y'all how I'll adjust the tune so that it compensates for some extra fuel. Thanks for watching.